The next speaker is coming from SICT. The two speakers, by the way, Mr. Clint Braaf, the manager in the area of multimedia, and with one of his coordinators, we call him Eugene Alfred. Over to you, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Glad to see that most of you are still here for the session. This is the last one for the day. So normally, you know, we know at these events by this time, you know, there's only a skeleton audience left, but I'm glad to see that there's still so many people online. So my presentation is going to focus on hybrid and dual teaching and the equipment of the venues for those purposes. And I'm actually walking the talk here. So you'll see that I've got my camera on and I'm actually broadcasting myself with one of the document cameras that you see in the lecture venues on campus. So how this project really came about is a merger of the physical and the virtual world. So most of our speakers, or a lot of our speakers have focused on the online experience and their journey, but at some stage, the physical classroom and the online space actually merges. And through this project, and in a lot of ways, COVID-19 has actually forced us to embrace this way of teaching. So just to give you some background on the project. And like I mentioned, basically the need came about because of the impact that COVID-19 has had on our teaching and learning practices and the inability for us to teach face-to-face the students that come to campus, that traditionally used to come to campus. And there's been a lot of uncertainty around when the students will actually return to campus. But what are we going to do once they do so? If we still find ourselves within the lockdown scenario that we are currently in, we won't be able to cram lecture venues full of students like we used to in the past, because we'll need to have COVID compliant spaces where social distancing is maintained. So with that in mind, students may return in limited numbers. Also, there might be students with comorbidities, which may not be able to come to campus physically because of their conditions. And so therefore, we basically needed to rapidly develop a way of bringing streaming to our classrooms. And what we did was also look at our existing infrastructure and also the types of requests that we have received from lecturers over this time. Now, again, emphasis on the uncertainty, because we didn't know, are we going to return within 3 months? I think it was Martha that spoke in her presentation about how we were told we would go back after Easter. So when we started this planning, it was always like as if it's going to happen right now. Now, some of our faculties also requested dual teaching functionality, and this was pre-COVID. And this was because there were simply some disciplines that had so many students that one classroom couldn't accommodate all of them. So making a classroom dual teaching basically means you're relaying what's happening in the one venue to the other venue. And the students could be spread across those two venues. When we looked at this now, in the current context, we realized that this is actually a good thing, because if we have that dual teaching functionality, we could also maintain social distancing over two venues when you have the students spread in that way. And for example, CAMS, pharmacy and nursing were some of the departments that asked for this functionality even prior to COVID. So what was the solution that we came up with? Well, basically, again, we looked at what we currently have in our classrooms, and we came to the realization that, you know, the main thing when it comes to streaming is visual and audio. So a camera and a microphone is the basics of what you need in a venue in order to do that. And when we assessed the existing environment, we realized that we actually do have a device in a lot of our venues. So we have the document camera, which is the one that I'm broadcasting with right now, in most of the venues on campus. And so this made us identify a cost-effective solution for streaming, because it was something that we are tapping into that is already there. An audit that we did in 2018 when the audio visual services team was moved from ICS over to the CIECT team. We did an audit and we determined that we already had about over 140 venues that was already equipped with these document cameras. And these are the lumens ones, which you see in the picture that I have on my screen, on my slide. But we've actually now put in even more advanced ones, newer ones, which is the AVA document cameras. And basically all you need is this document camera along with a conferencing tool such as Google Meet. Roger and Mr. Boyce that spoke earlier as well, they successfully did this with a labor law course where we, I went in, helped them set it up for the first time. And then after that, it was like a mere formality. You just come in, you start your Google meeting, you select your document camera as the source camera, because the main thing is that the venue computers don't have a camera such as a webcam like we have in our laptops. So we tap into the documents camera to facilitate that. And all you need is a conferencing tool. I'm using Zoom, but we've tested it on also with Google Meet and Big Blue Button, and they work pretty great on all of those platforms. It's 1080p cameras. They come with a light source, so you get really good visuals. Main thing was that there's, sorry?
5 minutes to go.
Main thing is that there's minimal infrastructural change needed. It's basically one additional cable that we needed to plug in to make the system work. So just quickly, our project plan, we identified 156 venues. This is after the 140 that already has cameras in them. We looked at, we are now looking at over 296 venues being ready for streaming once the project concludes. And we will have an additional 20 portable units that you can come and rent from the AVS office, and you can then even facilitate this online teaching from your informal spaces, your boardrooms, your office, and so forth. So because this was a very large undertaking, we did have to appoint a vendor to equip the classrooms for hybrid and dual teaching purposes. And so we followed, all the UWC tender processes and channels that we needed to. And we sent out communication to the campus community to inform them that an audio visual services vendor, Inra Technologies, would be on campus to facilitate the installations. Fortunately for us, it's a very quiet time. Most of the academics are still teaching from home. So it gave us the opportunity to go into those spaces without disrupting classrooms and equip them for this functionality. I will now hand over to my colleague, Eugene, the Audio Visual Services Supervisor, which will just briefly take you through the time frames and the installation of the devices.
Hi, everybody. We initially planned to have all the work completed by March. The tender committee was not available, so we had to wait on the tender committee, and we then completed the process in May. The installations only commenced on the 1st of June, and the intended deadline was on the 25th of July. I think we were blessed with COVID in order for us to do this, because we never ever had the chance to work in venues because it's always been busy. The vendor Enra Technologies gave us a scheduled plan to fit all these document cameras, and they were on time. We had a couple of delays because of access to venues. We have some buildings on campus where people have the keys at home. So we are still trying to get those keys. The other holdup was with old computers and network issues. We also had a case where a few of the AVS staff members contracted COVID, and which stalled our checking up on venues a bit. In Bellville FCHS, we also had a holdup because the building manager also had to go under isolation because of contact with the COVID-19 case. So that delayed us with another 3 weeks. But eventually when he got back, we got onto that. I must say with the dual classrooms, we actually have a tracking camera in the dual camera. We removed the old cameras and we installed a tracking camera that would be able to track the lecturer. And in response to that, we have another tracking camera in the other classroom that would pick up the student. So there'll be, as Clint is showing you there, which in the one class where the lecturer is, the student would pop up on that LED screen where we're showing you next to the camera there. And on the other side, where the student is, the lecturer's face will come up on the screen live with a tracking camera. We are at the end of the project now. There are training available to academics. There are self-directed training materials. There's been a video on YouTube that Clint and Naweed, in conjunction with Ashwin and Lou, they made a video. But there is also videos on the sites of Ava and Lumens that you can look at, but we've made our own simpler video for academics. The departments that have already requested training was biotechnology, sociology, and EMS, also foreign languages. Law faculty, which did the presentation earlier, used the system effectively. And we're hoping that what we're doing now will help everybody. These document cameras can also become interactive if the user downloads the software onto their laptops or PC, and they'll be able to annotate and do various kinds of things online. So yeah, that is where we're at now. We're at the end of the project, and it's now just a matter of testing the venues and having it ready for when we return in groups.
Thank you, Eugene. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Clint and Gino. I will hand over now to Dr. Stoltenkamp to close.
Thank you to Carol, Clint, and Fundi for chairing, and to all our speakers, I appreciate it. And to our last speakers, Clint and Gino, this is a huge institutional project. I appreciate all the efforts, and it's so important that we consider preparing our online and physical spaces. So thank you for that. And once again, to all the speakers and all their leaders in this group as well, I appreciate your support for all the lecturers and as well as for our professional support team. So have a good afternoon, and we will continue to support you We've taken down all the comments and feel free to contact Seed. Remember, it's lifelong learning. It's not once off, as I said. So that is why we're building relationships with you for over a long period of time. And you can continue coming to us because it's a learning curve for you as well as for the team. So stay blessed, all of you, and good luck with planning for the 2022 academic year. We're not even done with this year, but you know, there's planning already for next year. So good luck to all of you. Thank you so much. Thank you, team. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you, Juliet. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, Juliet and team. It was wonderful.
Thank you, Alison.